Well, welcome to another little chat about rally navigation in relation to your classic navigational style car rally. Now, today I'm going to talk about shortest map route point to point and shortest map route overall. They're two very different things. Potentially you could have the same via points to follow, but point to point and overall may give you a completely different route to follow. Now, shortest map route point to point is the one you're going to come across the most. Now, you'll find this when it'll either be in your supplementary regulations, it'll tell you that the whole event is shortest map route point to point, and it is the most common. Other times it'll be at the front of each section. This section is shortest map route point to point or shortest map route overall. Now, what's the difference between the two? Okay, let's say you have half a dozen via points to travel through. However they're determined, grid references, bearing points, town names, whatever you've been told, you've got a series of via points to go through. Each one of those, when you're going in shortest map route point to point, means that you're sitting at your control point, you're looking at your instructions. Your very first point might say via the town Kitchener. So you'll find Kitchener on your map, and let's say you're at Mulbring. Well, you just have to find the shortest distance between Mulbring and Kitchener and drive there. Now, the great advantage of shortest map route point to point is that you can do that and be on your way straight away, and that might be 15 k's away. So in that 15 k's, you're plotting your next one. So you're looking for another town or a grid reference or whatever it might be, and so you're going to go from Kitchener to another location on your map. Alright? And again, it's going to be the shortest distance from Kitchener to whatever that point is. Simple? Well, sort of. So you're just going from one point to the next point to the next point to the next point in order that they're in your instructions. Now, shortest map route overall is a different animal altogether. You'll have your 6 via points to go through, but you don't have to go through them in order or the closest. What you need to do is plot all of them onto a map. You find all 6 locations, you then look at your map, and you need to find a route that'll take you through all those locations that is ultimately the shortest distance between the 2 major controls. And as I said, those two can be very different routes, even though they may well have the same grid references or via points. So that's the difference between the two. So let's have a look on a map, and we'll just sort of do a bit of prac and see how that goes. Alright, let's talk about shortest map route point to point. Just ignore that bit there, that's from a previous example. Okay, we're going to go point to point, and we're given these points in order of this one, that one, that one, that one, and that one. Now assume that they were grid references that you've plotted. Okay, you're up here at Singleton, and so your first one, which is the point to point, so you've got to go from there down here to this point. Now the second point you've got to go to is this one. So which is the quicker, shortest, that way or that way? Well, you need to measure it, but just eyeballing it, just for the argument's sake of this exercise, I think we'll go that way. Now the next point is over here. Now again, what's the shortest map route to get there? Okay, well, now we need to wind back the clock a little bit here, and some events allow you to cross over yourself or use the same road twice and what have you. A lot of events don't. I'm assuming this event doesn't. Alright, so to get over here, we're going to have to go down and across and all the way down along this road and up into that point. This is our next point to go to point, so the quickest or the shortest map route is that way. The next one's up here, shortest map route, point to point, is going to be like that. Now that's how you would do that in shortest map route, point to point. Now, let's see how we would do this if it was shortest map route overall. Well, okay, we're still up here in Singleton. Well, let's just sort of eyeball this and go, well, we could come down here, down here, down to there, across this road, up through to that point. Then we could come down here and around into that point and then follow the same route the other and up into there. So that would be shortest map route overall. As you can see, there's a big difference between the two. Now with shortest map route point to point, and you're here, you simply have to plot that point and you're away. If you're doing it shortest map route overall, you're probably going to have to pull out of the control, park on the side of the road and plot all these points in order to work out the shortest map route overall. So that's just a typical example. Well, that was a very rough and ready example of shortest map route point to point or shortest map route overall. It can get fairly complicated because you need to get a ruler out and measure those roads to see which is likely to be the shortest route. So that's shortest map route point to point as against shortest map route overall. Now we've covered pretty well everything that I can think of. And so now what happens? Well, you've got to combine all of it. And suddenly it becomes considerably more complex. In as much as we've done some examples there of grid references. So you might have 6 grid references to go via points. Let's just say you have 6 via points. They might be grid references, bearings, and whatever form the organisers have used to define where those via points are. Now there's a good chance that all of those via points will have a entry or exit direction given. And so you need to plot on the map and put a little arrow. That's the way you've got to go into that sort of road junction or town or whatever the point is. Now on top of that, you might be given some out of bounds areas. That means you can't go via a certain way. That might be the more direct or the more logical way. But then it starts to get even a bit more tricky. You might be told to pass an airfield on your right or to cross 5 bridges. And these are mapped, remember, not what's in the real world. And so by the time you're given all of this information, cross bridges, pass airfields, or whatever those instructions are on top of your grid references, your via points, it all becomes a big mishmash that you need to then look at your map and puzzle out the route to follow, keeping in mind that's got to be the shortest route from one point to the other, and whether it's shortest map route point to point or overall. So it's a bit of a mind game, but you sort of get your head around it after a while, and you need to be decisive. That's the other thing I would advise everyone to be. Plot it out. Okay, that's the way we're going. Right or wrong, this is how we're doing it. And it's great when you get it wrong, right. When you get it right. Other times you might have sort of forgot you had to pass an airfield on your right. So, well, that brings us to the end of these little chats about navigation. I don't think there's much point in me trying to do a whole complicated scenario. It would just be, it's not the point of all this. I think we need to just define the basics and jump in at the deep end and have a go, you mate. So that's about it from me. Bye for now.